Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julie and today I am super excited to share with you my brand new December workshop. Now I know you're probably busy, but once Christmas is over, you're going to be looking for a project to make. This project is a 6-page layout, so 3 double-page layout, and it features this gorgeous collection here. This is called Winter Meadows, and it is just simply beautiful. This is not a new collection. It's been around for a while, but it is new to me. And I really love that it has really bold patterns on one side, and then it has just this great textured background. And I'm going to show you how I used some of these papers. I didn't use all of them, but let's take a look at layout number 1. I will also show you how to do a few of the techniques on these pages so you can craft along with me when you purchase this guide. I'll talk about that in a moment. For this layout right here, let's take a closer look, and I want to show you all of these gorgeous details. It actually comes together very nicely. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm not a fan of fussy cutting, but this paper absolutely needed to be fussy cut and spread on 2 pages. This is this page right here, and you can see that if I would have used both pages, it would have gotten really busy. So I went all around, and it's easy enough. I'm not a fan of fussy cutting, as you know, but I did go around and I did cut this apart, and I was able to spread it on my 2 pages. Now let's talk about some of the products that I've used for this layout. I'm not sure about you, but I was not quite ready to put away my Christmas stamps. This stamp here has been a workhorse. I've been using it for Christmas cards, I've been using it for my December daily, and I'm using it for this layout right here. I also brought back the golden greenery. You can see that I've got some here and there, and you know, it's kind of nice to mix what you already have with something that you may not have. For this layout, we're going to go over both techniques that I did, and they're super easy. Now, if you want to skip this technique back here, you can absolutely use this as your back page. It is what I used for my inspiration, but I didn't want to use the entire page because I really like this side. So if you want to conserve on some of your papers, let me show you how to create this really cool background right here. This is a technique that I taught in the CDT membership group, and we're going to go over how I colored these little birds. Let me show you how I created this background right here. And again, if you don't want to do the background, you can absolutely use this full sheet. But you can see here that I did use this side for my circles. So let's push this out of the way. For the background technique, we're going to start with a white piece of cardstock. This is just regular cardstock. I'm going to bring in Smoky Slate, which is a color in that paper collection. I'm going to use a brayer and some water. This is really cool and very effective. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add some ink to your surface. And you see that I didn't go all the way in because I don't want this to be too dark. I don't want this to take over my layout. So I'm adding quite a bit of water. If you've never used a brayer, you don't just go back and forth in your ink, you go all the way through, and don't worry about these dots. They will be part of the layout. Do you see how I'm rolling through? And I'm rolling this across my page. I'm going to pick up more ink here. I'm rolling it all the way, and I'm bringing that through. If you do this, like this little motion, you're going to have little breaks in your strié look. And I want that to be continuous. Now, it may not look dark enough, but once you add that really pretty pattern and the photos, this is just enough pattern to dress up your base page. Now, the last thing I'm going to do And if you know me, you'd know I'm going to pull out my little brush here, my fan brush. I really, really like it. You saw that I just added water to my mat and more ink. I want it to be a little bit darker. And I am just going to splatter this entire page. And pretty much that's it. We're good to go. Now, I know that I have a bit of a spot here, but I don't think that that's going to matter. It's all part of that distress look. Let me bring back the left side of this layout, and you see that it's concentrated in the center, and then I have this really beautiful piece right on top. It will dry back a little bit, and it just gives it a really nice detail at the back, and you saw it is really, really easy. So let's move on to how I colored those cute little birds. For whatever reason, I guess because of the stamp, the look and feel of it, I've been doing a watercolor treatment on these little guys, and I'm going to show you my best tips on how to be successful, and it's not that hard. So for this technique, you're going to need a water brush. Now, if you're used to watercoloring, you could probably use just a plain old brush. But if you're new to it, a water brush will really help you with how much water you're letting on to your paper. Now, I want to show you a side by side of these two little birds, and hopefully the camera's picking up on it. This one here was done on watercolor paper, and this one was done on plain old cardstock. Now you can see that the watercolor paper, the colors are a little bit more vibrant and they do mix better. Now, I don't know about you, but trying to grab watercolor has been nearly impossible. I guess everybody's doing watercolor treatment for Christmas cards. I picked up this Canson paper at my local Staples. It was under $10 and you get 20 sheets. And it's really, really good. So if you're looking for watercolor paper and you haven't been lucky enough to find some, this Canson one is good. It's very inexpensive, and it is a really good shade of white. I have come across other watercolor paper, and the shade is a little bit more vanilla if you want, but this one is a great find, and it's very inexpensive. So this is what I used for my little birds, and we're going to start coloring them in. Now, I'm calling this dry watercolor. Well, that's pretty funny when I think about it now. We're going to use Smoky Slate. We're going to use Pebble Path. We're going to use Misty Moonlight. For the little berries on this layout right here, the color is Moody Mauve, which is part of the collection. I don't have that color, but I do have Mulberry, and that matches quite nicely. Let's start coloring these little birds in, and you'll see that it's quite easy. I'm going to start with the branch, and I'm going to go in with Pebble Path. I really like this color. It's not a gray and it's not a brown. It's a nice in between. Now, I know that most people, when they do this, they squish their ink pads right into the cover and they pick up the ink. That's a lot of ink. And because I stamped these in Pebble Path, and I did let them dry for about an hour, because we are working with dye-based ink and you don't want it to bleed. I was very successful in coloring them in and just letting them dry. And did you see? I'm just rubbing my wet brush in here, and we are just going to color that in. It's that simple. I'm not going to do some crazy shading on the branch. I don't think it's needed. And I am not pressing on the water barrel, and I am not adding too much ink. And that is key because I did stamp with dye-based ink. You're going to need just a paper towel to squeeze out the color. Do you see how the color is squeezing out? And then you're going to move on. Actually, you know what? I forgot to do their little beaks. Let's go back. I'm always testing on the side here to see if I have too much water. You want barely no water on your brush. You want it wet, but you don't want a lot of water because the ink might bleed. I did not run across that issue, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that. For the little birds, we're going to use Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to make sure that my brush is nice and clean. And then I'm not pressing in. I'm just lightly touching the surface. And look how dark that is. It does dry back. So I am going to do his little head. This is pretty much how I did all of the birds for this layout. He's got a little bit of a tail. And then I just go ahead and I use that color that I'm working with on all of the pieces that need to be blue. So in this case, we have two little birds. And you can, if you want, try and add a little darker shades to it, but you don't want to oversaturate your image. So I'm going to close this off. I'm going to bring in some smoky slate. And this one here, I'm going to show you my little pro tip here. So I'm going to go in right underneath. I'm kind of doing like little squiggles, right? And then I'm going to water down my brush. So this is where I am getting a little bit more water onto my brush because I have a bigger surface and I'm trying to avoid the stamp part. But do you see how that blended really, really beautifully? So we're going to go in, we're going to do that again. I'm going to go here. So where you want the color to be more predominant, which is I'm doing the side of his little belly, and then I'm going to add more water to this, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to blend that out. I'm just doing little circular motion, no more than that, but you don't want a lot of water. So the last thing for these two little guys, I'm going to go in with my mulberry ink, and I'm just going to lightly touch these little berries. I am not adding water here. So that is the trick. Try and stay in the center. Don't go over to the edges too much. If you encounter bleeding, I'd like to know about it because I was very successful with using the Stampin' Up ink to do watercolor. But you can see that this is almost a dry brush. We're almost done here. Okie doke. And that is our birds. So I hope that this was helpful. I did this on two of my layouts. I want to bring this one back in so you can see that the blending is not as smooth when you use regular cardstock, but when you use watercolor paper, the blending is beautiful. Don't put too much water and just have fun with it. This brush is barely wet. It is wet. I am not pouncing in my ink pad to get color, and I am not pushing all of that ink in the lid. You can do that if you want, but in this case, it's kind of like less is more. So I hope that this was helpful because we're going to do a few of these little birds for this workshop. For this layout, I did mention that I used some of my Christmas supplies to complete this page, and I don't think they look Christmassy at all. I did create this gorgeous title right here, and it's all part of the workshop. It is a printable, and for the circles, I use this one right here, which I believe is on the last chance list. So you may want to pick this one up. It's called the Deckle Circle Die, and it's this one here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This die right here measures 3.5, and I really like that deckled look around that circle. Now I could have used the next one down, but I didn't. If you look at this one right here, you see that it has little dots. This one here is from the Basic Shape die. You probably have this in your collection. It is a 2 3/4. If you don't have these ones, you can always use the Spotlight on Nature dies. You can use whatever you have in your stash to do these circles. I just wanted to use some of the products that I've picked up over the last few months, and I think that it lends itself quite well to this page. Let's take a look at layout number 2. So here we have a layout number 2, and I really like the way this turned out. Once again, I was not quite ready to put away my Christmas dies, and I brought back the little birds. The only difference here is that the berries are done in a darker blue, which is Blueberry Bushel, and I brought back this one right here. The sprigs that you see here were done in vellum, and I used one of each, and it was part of that collection. Now, also part of the collection, if you haven't used it all, I did die cut some of these gorgeous leaves here to bring that nice vibrant green onto this layout. The other stamp set that I brought onto this layout is the Textured Timber stamp, and it is on the last chance, and it's marked down. They're almost giving it away. So you may want to grab this one, because you can see that when you create clusters, it gives it a nice little resting spot for you to put all of your elements together in a nice cluster. Now this paper here, same collection. Do you see this vibrant blue? Normally I'm not a blue person, but this is such a happy blue. It's gorgeous. I really love the way that it's continuous at the back. And then I use the back side for these pieces here. Now I could have used this whole strip, but I felt that having a punch of it was just enough, and that blue is fantastic. You have another title right here that is part of the workshop, but this layout comes together so easily. You're going to color your little birds the same way, and it's just so pretty. So you can add a lot of photos to this layout, as you can see. If you'd like more information on how to get this cutting guide, you can check the description box below. If you are in Canada, when you place an order of $80 before tax and shipping, I will send you a copy of this guide completely free. If you are one of my regular clients, this is going to be listed in our private Facebook group. You just go to the file section, you grab the guide, and then you're ready to go. For my international friends, for those of you who don't live in Canada, if you would like a digital download, there will be a link for you in the description box below, and you can jump over onto my Facebook page and grab it there as well. This is a great time saver, and I've partnered up with my very good friend Chelsea, and we offer all of our guides every single month to our teams. So if you'd like to join our teams, you will have access to all of the guides we do, and it is truly a time saver. We figure out all of the paper colors, all of the cutting for you, and you can create these gorgeous layouts in the comfort of your home at your own pace. So let's take a look at layout number 3. Here is layout number 3, and this one is somewhat different. We're still using that same paper collection. I am still using this great stamp set right here in 2 ways. I have it here to support my clusters, and then I stamped it on the background right here and on the side, and I think that it looks really good. Now for this layout, I did bring in wild ferns, and I did use both the dies and the stamps. So let's take a closer look at that. You can see right here in that cluster, you've got these gorgeous ferns. You have this corner piece that frames your photo really nicely. You have this title block right here. I left this blank here so you can either add the year or the location of your hike, your walk, your trip, whatever your photos are going to be about for this layout. But I really do love how this turned out. Let me show you really quickly how I dressed up these little fern branches. So for these ferns, on some of them, I did a two-tone stamping. And let me show you, it's so easy. We're going to use this fern right here. It's not really the rock and roll technique if you're familiar with that, but it is definitely a two-tone stamping. So I'm going to start with Crumb Cake, and then I'm going to go into Lost Lagoon. So I just have plain old white cardstock here, and I'm just going at the tip of the fern, and then I'm going to go at the bottom, and I'm going to stamp that. And you get this really pretty two-tone color when you do that. So these ones were done the same way. These curly ones, these ones were done in, I believe, Pretty Peacock. All of this information is written for you in the guide. It tells you how to stamp them. It tells you how many you need for what layout. Again, it is a really great tool to have. Now, when I first stamped these, I felt that they were getting lost on the page. A little bit of ink blending to the rescue. I'm going to go into my Crumb Cake. I'm not going to die cut this right away because I'm going to give myself a place to do that little pounce mark. And I found that when you do it before you die cut, you get it on the edges much easier. So I'm going to go in the Lost Lagoon, and we're just going to ink blend that piece. And there you have it. No more than that. It's super easy and it looks really great. I hope that you agree. If you're interested in this workshop and you'd like to get your hands on the workshop guide from Canada, you know what to do. And if you're international, just click on the link down below and you can get your very own digital download. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video and this workshop. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. If you're interested in more workshop guides, you might enjoy this one right here. See you there.